Welcome to Week 7 of the Mountain Valley News Pigskin Preview. I'm Monk Blevins.
And I'm Will Jacobs.
And we'll be here with you for the next hour talking a little high school football, breaking down last week's games, and talking about the games coming up. Well, Will, we're 7 weeks in.
I can't believe it. This season has really gone by fast, and now we're getting down into the shaping out process of how playoffs are going to look.
Oh, absolutely. Some big games this week, and we'll be talking about those in just a few minutes. But, we want to talk a little bit about last week's games. And, the first one I want to talk about, I guess, is, Fort Payne. Fort Payne Wildcats traveled over to Brewer and won that game 39-14. But Evan McPherson, man, what a leg on that guy. He kicks a 60-yarder, which set a state record this week, or over Friday night over at Brewer. So, congratulations to Evan McPherson. And he was last week's Mountain Valley News Player of the Week. And, man, I tell you what, he is a weapon.
Absolutely. Fort Payne can cross the 50-yard line, and they're sitting in good shape.
Oh, absolutely. If their defense can keep the other team from scoring, if they can just cross the 50, they've got a shot of getting 3 points at any time. So, big game for Fort Payne. And, they have another big game this week as Oxford will be traveling up. Oxford sets it. Number 2 in the state, so tough test for Fort Payne this week, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. But, Fort Payne playing well, after a couple of weeks of injuries and a couple of losses, they come back with a big win over Brewer. And Jay Tyler Ellis had a great football game, and the Shaddix kid, I always want to call him Michael, but that's his brother, I think. So I'm not going to, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he had a great game, and defensively they played well and give up 14 points, and I think 7 of those points were late in the game.
Yeah, it was about with 12 seconds left or something like that, I think I saw.
But great win for Fort Payne, and Coach Ellis, I know he was excited to get that win after a couple of losses, and we'll see how it shakes out this week. Big game again with Oxford, and then couple other games coming up over the next few weeks, and we'll see how that goes. Next game we want to talk about, North Sand Mountain. Man, they lit it up. 512 total yards, 408 of those on the ground as they defeated Brindley Mountain. New Hope.
Yeah.
I'm getting the right team here in a minute. New Hope, 51-7. It's the most points they've scored since 2012.
Wow.
So, just a great game. Jess Cloud had 126 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 15 carries. And Landon Green, the quarterback, man, he just continues to play well for them. And he was 6 of 9 for 90 yards on the night. And again, Austin Hill had a great night too. So
yeah, it seems like over the past couple of weeks, Landon Green has really stepped up for him. He played a huge role in that overtime win against Ider, and I believe he even scored the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, this team seems to be playing well at this point of the season. Took a couple of losses with Plainview and can't remember who the other one was now. Sylvania, but and played Sylvania well actually, and so they're playing really good football right now. So they've got a great opportunity as they actually play. They're off this week. I'm sorry, they have a bye this week, and then they get back into action. But they're setting really good for a playoff berth if they continue to play the way they're playing. Next, we had Valley Head. Valley Head took a tough loss, 13-8 to Cedar Bluff. Actually, in the fourth quarter, with about a minute left in the game, Cedar Bluff turns the ball over, and Valley Head drives it inside the 10-yard line with just under a minute. 4th down and 5, and they run a actually it's the 3rd down and 5, and they throw a pass to the player, and it hits him right in the hands. He drops it, which would have been a 1st down. Yeah. And then on the 4th down, they pitched it to Roger Kirby, who turns around and throws a little pass back to, and I don't remember who it was over there, and he goes for 4 yards and then gets a 1st down, and they lose that thing 13-8. But Valley Head played a great football game.
Absolutely. I mean, especially like you said, just it wasn't really little things, but just trying to fight for that 1 extra yard when they needed it most. It just seemed like they couldn't come up and do that.
Yeah, I spent the first half up there taking some pictures and watching that game. And Valley Head is not a bad football team, and the Kirby kid is really a good running back, and the Izell boys both are very good, and and so they're not a bad football team. they don't have many players, maybe 18 or something like that. So they have to go both ways, and it makes it tough on them. But, they play Gainesville this week and have a great opportunity. If they can beat Gainesville and beat Woodville next week, they still make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So they've got an opportunity and played well against a good Cedar Bluff team. They're not bad. We talk about the Fife Red Devils. Sandrock traveled down to Fife this week, and Fife just does what they do. They beat Sandrock 49-7. Peyton Anderson had 4 touchdowns, and he just keeps racking them up. Man, he gets 4 or 5 touchdowns every week. Brent Rowell had a fumble recovery and returned it, I think, 45 yards for a touchdown. And this Fife team is just clicking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've played great football all season long, and I don't think that they show any signs of slowing down.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. They'll face they play Collinsville this week, and man, I tell you what, it'd be tough game for Collinsville traveling down to Fife. They played a pretty good Westbrook Christian team last week and was defeated in that game. I think they got several injured players. My understanding, they may lose about 5 players this week. Very young football team, and only had 3 seniors. So, it's not a good time to lose 5 players when you're fixing to travel to Fife.
No, not at all.
So, but that's coming up, and we'll talk about that later. But this Collinsville team struggling a little bit, just very young, and of course when you start losing players, 4 or 5 players at one time, again it makes it tough. So we'll see how that shakes out. Sylvania, Sylvania, man, big win over Pisgah, setting at 6-0 on the season, and as they won 37-7 over Pisgah, and the Shavers kid just still playing well. He had a 55-yard touchdown run. Garth Anderson, who is actually, if I'm not mistaken, his Chad Anderson's little brother, and he had a 34-yard touchdown at Sylvania on the night. And Eli Battles had caught a touchdown pass, and again, the quarterback Spears had another great night for them. And so, this Sylvania team is playing well. They play Geraldine this week, and Geraldine had a big win over Brindley Mountain. That's the team that played Brindley Mountain, and David White had 124 yards, I believe you said, and on 17 carries and 3 touchdowns. And he is the Mountain Valley News Player of the Week this week. So congratulations to David White from Geraldine on being our Player of the Week. Just a great game for him. But man, big matchup this week in region play, and this thing's shaking out. If Sylvania was to win this week, we'll put it that way, Plainview Bears are playing Brindley Mountain with a great opportunity to win. Man, what a big game it will be the following week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this last week and this week are good opportunities for Sylvania to get 2 region wins, and if they can do that, then it'll be hard for them to fall from that number 1 spot in that region.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So and then we got the Eider Hornets. They're the Mountain Valley News Team of the Week. Had a big win this week over Section 33-6. And man, I tell you what, just the Higdon kid had a great game, run the ball well, and then they changed, which is a little surprising to me. But Coach Tinker told us Friday night that they switched their quarterbacks up, and they put Chase Townsend at quarterback, and they put the Adams kid at running back, and said it worked well for them. So a big win for them, and this week they actually will be hosting Gaston, with a great opportunity to get a win and pretty much lock up a spot for a playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Coach Tinker said Friday night, having Adams back there with Higdon was like a 1-2 punch for them on the running game. And then they've got Logan Townsend coming in too. He's a big target if they ever do slip him out for a pass, and he's run the ball exceptionally well. And his twin brother Chase has actually ran the ball exceptionally well this season too. So they've got a lot of good guys that can run the ball very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Section will have to be traveling up to Sandrock this week, and after a tough loss, and again, we've talked about this. Anytime you travel to Sandrock, it's going to be a tough week for you. But this Section team, I talked with the coach a little bit today, and the game wasn't. Actually, it was 30-6 at halftime. they only gave up 3 points in the second half. Section did, and some of the plays, they snapped the ball over the punter's head. They fumbled down on the goal line on a kickoff return. Just some crazy things, happened in that section game. But this section team probably, and this was kind of the coach's words, probably the worst game we've played all year.
Well,
So
I'm going to give credit to Ider's defense. They held section to 60 total yards, and I believe that was for the second half on the night.
yeah.
And so I mean, that seems like section had a tough time.
Oh yeah, he told me he didn't know how many 3 and outs they had on the night, but he said, offensively they could not move the ball at all. So but they got a chance to go out to Sandrock, and again Sandrock took a pretty good beating by 5, and so you never know how those things will affect you on either team. We'll talk a little bit about Crossville. Crossville, I guess, in what I would call an upset, lost to Boaz 45-44, and Blanton Jones still playing really good for them, but coming in after a big loss to Sylvania the week before, and you always wonder how that will affect you.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked to see that Boaz defeated Crossville. I was even more shocked to see that they put up 45 points on them, because Crossville was ahead for majority of the game, but then towards the end they let Boaz score a couple of times and gave Boaz some momentum and some motivation, thinking that they could win that football game, and they proved to them that they could.
Oh, absolutely. And congratulations to Boaz. It's been a tough year for them after losing their coach, and so getting that win, and I know those kids are excited about that, and for Crossville, that 2 in a row, and you hope the coach and he can turn the ship here and get them back on winning ways this week. But boy, I tell you what, man, they got to face a good Gunnersville team.
Yeah,
and their schedule. That's a bad thing with Crossville. Their schedule over the next 3 weeks, man, is brutal. They've got Gunnersville, Etowah, and Alexandria coming up on schedule, and tough to win any of those games, to be honest with you. So we'll see how that shakes out. But again, just a tough night for Crossville as they lose that game. Again, Plainview was open this week, and still healing from the wounds of last week as they were beat by 5, and hopefully they get some players healthy this week, and as homecoming at Plainview, and I know everybody's excited about that, so we'll see how that goes. And again, I think Pisgah actually will be playing New Hope. Pisgah comes in struggling.
Yeah.
They're a struggling program. And when you say that, they're playing some pretty good football teams. Mm-hmm. North Sun Mountain, very good football team. Plainview's a very good football team, and Geraldine's a very good football team. So you can't take anything away from Pisgah. It's just they're in one of those regions where it's pretty tough, and it's kind of like with 5. 5 pretty much has got Region 2 locked up, or Region 7, I'm sorry, in Class 2A. They've got that locked up, and now I think you'll see the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And Sandrock is setting pretty good at 2nd right now, but Ider's still in this thing, Section's still in this thing at this point. So, man, what's your thoughts as we get into Week 7 and the kind of the playoff picture start making some sense?
Some of these teams, they're going to have to really step it up, like Pisgah. If they want to have a shot at making the playoffs, they're going to have to get a couple of good region wins, and then even some non-region wins to help them out a little bit. And there's still a couple of good matchups left in that region for 3A. I mean, you got Sylvania and Geraldine this week. North Sand Mountain and Geraldine still have to play. And then once those 2 games happen, that region is probably going to be set, because New Hope kind of struggling a little bit, Brindley Mountain struggling a little bit, and that's really the only teams left in the region on Plainview's schedule, and I think on Sylvania's schedule too. So really after these next couple of weeks, that region is going to be locked up, and so I think that for teams in that region, you're going to have to step it up if you want to make the playoffs, and if you're already in good position to make the playoffs, you need to just keep playing the way you have all season and not change anything unless you absolutely have to.
Oh, absolutely. You look at for Plainview, I think one of the things is they can't overlook this Brindley Mountain
Oh, not at all.
You know, with a big game coming up next week, and you know, I'm sure, and we talk about it, and everybody probably in the area and Plainview and Sylvania and around the area is talking about next week a Sylvania and Plainview face off, and but you know, you can't overlook this Brindley Mountain team. You know, Brindley Mountain actually scored first against Geraldine. And,
yeah, they did.
So I mean, you know, they're a capable football team. If you go out there and not well prepared for that football game, you can lose that one. And then on the other hand, you know, you got Geraldine traveling up to Sylvania. You know, and the one thing is you don't want to, you know, and you know, Geraldine has a chance to win this football game.
Yeah,
you hope they don't, in their minds, they're thinking we can't win this. But the other thing is, if they happen to lose that football game, they don't need to get down and forget about the big game they've got next week, because they're still in this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really for Geraldine, if they do lose this game, then that puts Plainview and Sylvania in the battle for 1 and 2. And then that also leaves the North Sand Mountain and Geraldine game battle for 3 and 4.
Right.
Unless Pisgah can come in and get a couple of region wins here late. But as the way things are shaped out right now, it looks like Geraldine North Sand is going to be the battle for 3 and 4 unless Geraldine can upset Sylvania this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, a lot to play for this week. You know, not only in 3A, also in 2A. You know, Collinsville traveling to Fife, and that's a big region game. And you know, I know Collinsville is beat up, but you never know. I mean, you know, Fife gets to looking ahead to somebody else, and you know, you never know what can happen there. And again, you know, this Ider team is setting really good right now after the big win last week, and you know, they've got Gaston this week, which they should win, but you can't take that for take that for granted and just go down there and go through the motions, because you will have to play or they will beat you. And so it's you know, Sandrock and Section, that's going to be a pretty good battle, I think. And you know, this Section team better than what they showed last week, I think. And Sandrock, again, you know, you just can't judge anybody who plays Fife. You know, that game, you really just got to put that out of the way, because, you know, Fife is just a little bit better than everybody else. I mean, that's just the way it is at this point of the year and this point of the season. And so, you know, you can't look at that and judge how these teams are by that one loss, I don't think. So, but, you know, we're coming up on a break here. And so we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this week's games. And then, you know, when we get down to the end, we'll pick them and see how that shakes out. So we're going to go to a commercial break right now, and we'll be right back.
Hello, folks. This is Andy White down here at Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City in Fort Payne, Alabama. I want to invite everybody to come out to our new location. We're at 1411 Glen Boulevard, right where you turn to go on Airport Road. We've got plenty of inventory for you to choose from. I got cars, trucks, vans, sport utility vehicles of any make and model. Come down here and visit us. Let us see what we can do for you. If you got some slow credit, I've got some banks that'll take care of that. We've got great financing, got a great selection of cars. Y'all come down here and see us.
Don't take the first deal that comes along when you can do better at BobbyLedbetter.com and Twin City Used Car Sales, located at 1411 Glen Boulevard in South Fort Payne.
Listen to some of Johnson's satisfied customers.
Everything exceeded our expectations. No one will ever work here other than Johnson. We give them an A+. The crew was awesome.
This is the third company that installed a unit in my house and the first that did it right.
Don't you want to know what type of person is working at your home? All of our employees must pass a background check and are subject to random drug testing. We won't send anyone to your home that we wouldn't trust in ours.
Call Johnson Heating and Cooling today, Alabama's largest and most awarded TVA dealer.
College is more than an education. It's a bridge to your future. Plan your future. Envision your future. Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Welcome back in, and Will, let's talk a little bit about this week's games. You know, some great football games this week, and you know, big region games. You know, first one on tap, we've got Brindley Mountain traveling up to Plainview, and like we said, you know, this should be a win for Plainview. You know, Brindley Mountain's a struggling football team, but, you know, there's a lot of outside activity. I don't know how to exactly say that for Plainview. It is homecoming. You know, that's always a big time. A lot of things going on, parades and just all kinds of things going on at the school for this game this week. And, and then there's the looming game coming up next week with Sylvania. So what's your thoughts on this Brindley Mountain and Plainview game?
Well, I think that Plainview doesn't need to get caught up in all like the homecoming stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's homecoming, so I mean you need to enjoy that and have fun with that, and just forget about a lot of that stuff. Forget about the game next week. You need to just go in and focus on this game coming up Friday night, because this is not only homecoming and the last one for 22 of these guys,
Right.
but it's also a big region game too. And if they lost this region game and then were unable to defeat Sylvania, then that could really hurt their chances of being number 2 or even number 1 in that region. So they need to take this game take this game like it's the region championship and play your best football and not cut out all the mistakes and just worry about winning this football game.
You're exactly right. This game is probably as big a game as they'll have the rest of the year. And not saying, Sylvania is going to be a huge game next week. But they win this game this week, and then they've got Sylvania left on the schedule, and they've got New Hope, which New Hope and Brindley Mountain are both very winnable football games. You get this win this week, even if you lose to a Sylvania team next week, you still have home field advantage in the playoffs if you finish number 2, and that's huge. That's a big thing, is getting to play at home in your first round. So this game I think is very critical, for this Plainview team, and I think they've got a great opportunity to win this game, but they do need to come out and play their best football game. If nothing else, just get them ready for next week. Next we've got Collinsville traveling over to Fife. And, man, again, this Fife team is just clicking on all cylinders. Peyton Anderson, good grief. Man, I tell you, he just continues to play well, 4 touchdowns, and just, every time he touches the ball, there's a chance he's going to go.
Yeah.
And, and not only him, and again, I don't think we give the offensive line near the credit, but their offensive line is playing just unbelievable. Brent Rao played well for him. Silas Hicks plays well for him. Seth Benefield, and you could name the whole team.
Yeah.
I mean, there is not a weak spot on that football team at this point of the season.
Not at all.
And for Collinsville comes in, man, beat up after last week after going to playing a Westbrook Christian game or team, and understanding they got 4 or 5 players that may not even get to play this week. And so what do you do? I mean, what if you're the coach? How do we stop Fife?
Well, I think really you got to get pressure in the backfield. That's where it all starts. You've got to find a way to get in the backfield and get hits on Anderson and Hicks and even Benefield early, and that way you might make them stumble, trip them up, or something like that, and then get other guys to come in and then take them down once they are struggling to get back up and fight for extra yards. So I think you got the big key for Collinsville is to find a way to get pressure in the backfield.
Yeah, Collinsville can throw the ball, and that's probably one thing. If there is a weak spot, and I'm saying if there is a weak spot on this Fife team, it's probably their pass defense. Their defensive backs gives they play off a little bit, and they'll give you some room to catch the ball. We saw that, Plainview had some success throwing the ball with Fife early. And so, if Caleb Jones can throw the ball, and, they might have an opportunity to do a little bit of damage there. But, and again, I don't know what players are hurt and not sure how that's going to affect them this week. But, a tough game for Collinsville. I tell you, coming in at healthy with everybody, it's a tough football game. But, having 5 starters out, it makes it tough.
Yeah, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, next game we got the Oxford will be traveling up to Fort Payne. Fort Payne gets back on the winning tracks, and again, Evan McPherson is just a weapon. Over the 50-yard line. Yeah. He's also a weapon punting the football and weapon on kickoffs, and you're not going to get many kickoff returns on him because they're going in the end zone, and you're not going to get many punt returns because he skies the thing, and sometimes they'll go 90 yards, too. So, What's your thoughts as they play this Oxford team? You know, is probably one of the best football teams in the state of Alabama. Of course, we heard Coach Pruitt say after his game that he used there was just way too much gold and black in that game. So,
well, I think that Fort Payne doesn't need to be intimidated by this Oxford team and how good they are because, I mean, Oxford is number 2 in the state, like we said, but I haven't seen them play, but I've heard things about. I've heard stories from that Abertville game about them and said that they're all over the field. Like you look up and they're everywhere. And so I think that Fort Payne is going to have to find their weak spot, watch some film from last year because I think they have several guys returning from last year. Oxford does, so I think that they're going to have to see what Oxford struggled with the most in that game and in other games too, and just take advantage of those things that and exploit those weaknesses.
Yeah. I will say, Fort Payne gave Oxford all they wanted last year in that game for about 3 quarters. So they're capable of playing. And, if Oxford takes them lightly, like, could happen, they might have a chance of pulling this off. And I do know Oxford's got, a couple of Division 1A prospects on that team. Of course, if you look at Fort Payne, they've got the number 1 player in the nation.
Right.
And so, I don't know. That may be a little intimidating for Oxford. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully it will be. So, we'll see how that shakes out. But that's going to be a hard-fought football game for Fort Payne, man. If they could pull that one off, that would make your season out there, just beating a team like that. Next we got Galesville be traveling to Valley Head. Valley Head comes in, like I said, a great football game last week. Played and most people, and I actually had a couple of people say, how in the world did Valley Head hang with Cedar Bluff? Because this Cedar Bluff team is pretty good.
Yeah, they are, and I was even shocked at that score. But I think that Valley Head is really going to have to move the ball well, like they did last week, and cut out little turnovers and mistakes like that. But the main thing they're going to have to do is fight for extra yards because, like you said earlier, needed 5 yards and got 4. Just got to have that willpower to push through and get guys behind whoever has the ball and push them forward for a couple of extra yards. That way they can get the first downs they need or get into the end zone and get scores they need.
Yeah. Again, I think this Valley Head team, they've got a great opportunity to take a step to go to the playoffs with a game against Galesville this weekend. Defensively, they played well last week. I was very surprised. Had not seen Valley Head play and had the opportunity to watch them, and very impressed. Big football team. Surprised. I was a little bit surprised how big their players are. They were a little bit bigger than I really thought they would be. Got some good speed in the backfield. Their quarterback plays well. He's not real tall, but he gets them in good positions. Makes good calls, and so if this Valley Head team can build off of what they did last week, I think they have a great opportunity of winning this game this week. And again, Roger Kirby has played well all year for them, and I think you just got to continue to get the ball to him and to Isaiah and see where you can go with it. Next game, and I think this is going to be a great football game. Geraldine travels up to Sylvania.
Well, I think that Geraldine is the one thing they're really going to have to work on is pass defense. I mean, they've not defended the pass very well this season at all. Run defense could use a little work, don't get me wrong, but they've always had a good run defense in the past couple of years, and so that's really what they pride their defense on is being able to stop the run game, but passing not so much. And this Sylvania team, and Spears can pick you apart, and he'll throw it up to anybody, and even if you think he's going to throw it, he'll take off and run with it. And if he finds a couple of holes, breaks a couple of tackles, then it's off to the races after that. So they're really going to have to contain the quarterback and cover the receivers extremely well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, this Sylvania team, defensively, man, they are just very good football team. And, I think David White has got to have a good game.
Yes,
and Thomas Willoughby needs to have a good game for them to have an opportunity to beat this Sylvania team. I think that, this is a great matchup. And, again, you never know when you've got a big game looming the next week how that's going to affect, their kids.
Yeah.
And, and no matter what you say, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, man, we beat Geraldine this week, and it's the big showdown, biggest game probably in DeKalb County in a while,
Yeah.
And, Sylvania and Plainview, if Plainview were to win, it's probably for a region championship. And so, but you can't overlook, that's the thing Sylvania's got to do. They can't overlook this Geraldine team.
Yeah.
Because Geraldine is a good football team.
Yeah, they're scrappy.
Next, we got Gunnersville. They'll be traveling up to Crossville. Again, Crossville, man, just took and I want to say a surprise loss, I guess, to Boaz last week. And, this Crossville team, was playing as good as anybody or in our area, up till, and of course had a great game against Sylvania last week. Nothing to be ashamed of. And nothing to be ashamed of against a Boaz team. They hung in there tough, but man, they face a tough Gunnersville team this week.
Yeah, and one thing, and you can blame it on what you want to. Isaiah Simpson was not playing last week. He was out because of a knee injury, and so that really hurt him on the kicking game. And
Right.
You can say that him not playing and them missing the extra point, that you can say that's what
Sure.
cost them the game. But really, when you look at it, Sylvania showed Crossville that they can be beat. And really, when you're going into when you're undefeated up until a big game like that, and then you finally do get beat, and that was a tough loss for them. I mean,
Absolutely.
they played a great football game, but they lost, and so that showed them that they could be beat. Then you think coming in, oh well, Boaz is struggling a little bit. They're down a little bit. This is a good game for us to bounce back from. Well, they didn't,
Yeah.
and so I think that they're just going to have to take these past 2 weeks and just completely get them out of their heads, throw them in the garbage, and just focus on this Gunnersville team, because Gunnersville is a lot better than Boaz was.
Oh, yeah.
And so and Gunnersville gave them trouble last year too. So they're going to have to just forget about last year and forget about the past couple of weeks and focus on this game Friday night.
And the thing look at this Crossville team. Crossville can beat Gunnersville.
Yes,
there's no doubt in my mind they can play with this Gunnersville team if they can just get it in their head. I can play with this Gunnersville team. And again, I think I think and it's probably not the correct word, but maybe a little bit hungover, if you want to call it that, from the loss to Sylvania the last week in the Boaz game. And so we'll see how that shakes out. But Crossville needs that win. They get that win, they have an opportunity to get in the playoffs.
Yes, they do. And if they do win that game, that'll give them great confidence going into the next couple of weeks against those tough opponents.
Oh, absolutely. So we'll see how that goes. Next we got Gaston will be traveling up to Ider. Gaston is a struggling football team. This Ider team has played well all year, really, and just a hard-nosed run the football. Made some changes last week and moved their quarterback to running back and moved their running back to quarterback, I guess. Or I thought, well, that may have been the one that was wide receiver.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
always get them confused. I don't
Chase
know.
was the receiver,
Okay,
yeah.
so looked like a pretty good move after the big win they had last week.
Yeah, I think that making those changes and it being week 6, just a little over the halfway point in the season, making changes, I think they've found what they've been looking for and what's really helped them out. And so I think that I look for them to stick with that game plan this week. And I think that having Adams and Higdon both in the backfield will really help this Ider run game, and they love to run the football.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right, because, the one thing with teams playing Ider before, and not taking anything away from the other running backs, but, they pretty much would just key on Higdon running the football and try to shut him down. Well, with Ryan Adams back there now, you've got 2 good running backs, and so you start keying on one, the other one's going to run down your throat. So I think that's a good move on Coach Tinker's part. And, again, they're the Mountain Valley News Team of the Week, and we'll be up at their pep rally on Friday, I hope. And if nothing happens, and, who knows, bum may show up. You never know. So that's going to be a fun day, and, big game as Ider, wins this football game on Friday night. That pretty much will get them in the door for a playoff,
Yes,
I think.
will.
So next we got New Hope traveling up to Pisgah. Again, New Hope, man, struggling this year. New coach comes in. They lost a lot of great players, great running back last year, And so, and then Pisgah, you know, has played well at times. Houston Bell continues to play well for him. You know, he had a big run in the game against
Sylvania.
Yeah, Sylvania. And, you know, at the end of the game. But, you know, so this Pisgah team is not a bad football team.
No, not at all.
You know, and with a win this week, they're not out of the playoff picture.
No, they're not. No, this is a huge region game, probably the biggest region game of the season for Pisgah. And so if Houston Bell can have another big game for them, and Wisenhant at quarterback, if he can pass the ball well, I think that they can defeat this New Hope team with no problem.
Yeah, I think you're right. So that's going to be a big game up in Pisgah, and I know, man, they'd love to get that win this week. And of course, New Hope would love nothing more to come in and to spoil the fun for them. And you know, the next game we've got Section. We'll be traveling over to Sand Rock. You know, Section comes in after a tough loss to Ider last week, and you know, Sand Rock again had a tough loss at Valley Head, but again, a big region game for both. You know, for Sand Rock is probably in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But you know, a win pretty much they can lock up. You know, over the next couple of weeks, lock up that second spot and get that home field advantage. You know, for Section, a win probably means they might have an opportunity to get into playoffs. And so, you know, for Section, it's big just to get into playoffs. Sand Rock, it's big because they would love to play at home in the first round.
Yeah. I think that Section is going to have to, again, play good run defense because like we've said before, this Sand Rock team, they'll run, get your defensive backs creeping in, then they'll throw it over you. So Section defensive backs are going to have to stay at home, come up and make the tackles if they need to, but the defensive line for Section is going to have to be huge this game. They're going to have to find ways to get in the backfield, get hits on the quarterback, get hits on the running backs, and just ultimately keep Sand Rock from being able to run the ball. Because I mean, over the past few weeks, their defensive passing game or the passing defense has been playing exceptionally well for them, and forced 6 interceptions in the first 3 or 4 games or something like that, I think. So I think that if Section's defense can stop the run and force Sand Rock to pass, that they might have a better advantage to win this football game.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And you know, the one thing with Section, I know, you know, talking to the coach today, you know, and he said, I don't know how many, but we were 3 and out so many times. You know, we didn't give the defense opportunity to get any kind of rest, and they're right back on the field. So, you know, the Section offense is going to have some drives and sustain. What's the word I'm looking for? They have got to have drives and keep the ball and drive it down the field, and at least give the defense an opportunity to get a little bit of rest here. So we'll see how that game and and again, I think this is a very good football game, and you know, you can't count Section out on this game. I think they have an opportunity. You know, next we'll jump in and talk a little bit of college here before we go to a break. You know, got Arkansas traveling to Alabama. You know, Alabama, man, was in a pretty good little battle on Saturday as they defeated Texas A&M. I think the final was 24-19 or 27-19. I'm sorry, they got a field goal, but you know, they were leading 24-3 at halftime, and let this Texas A&M get back in the football game.
Absolutely, and I think that Alabama is really going to have an easy time with handling Arkansas because Arkansas is struggling a little bit. I mean, they're not what they used to be, but by no means are they a bad football team. So, I mean, this is kind of one of those years where they're just trying to work with the guys they've got and ultimately try to bring in some new guys in the next couple of years. So I think that Alabama is really going to have an easy time with this Arkansas team. You know,
Arkansas, my understanding was their quarterback possibly will not play in this game, Allen. And I can't remember his first name, but, you know, been about a 2 or 3 year starter. And I heard he was hurt and probably would not be playing in this game. And that hurts them because, you know, they pass the ball fairly well, and that is probably Alabama's weak spot if there's anything there. You know, their pass defense, they tend to get pass interference penalties called on them a good bit. So, so we'll see how that shakes out. You know, big game. I think it's probably one of the better games of the week. Auburn travels down to LSU, and, you know, if we'd been talking about LSU 2 weeks ago, I would have probably said, nah, Auburn will blow them off the field. But now LSU looked like a different football team last week against Florida.
Well, Auburn's starting to play a lot better. Their offense is starting to get things going a little bit for them. Defense is still playing great, and like they have all season. And LSU has really turned things around since that Mississippi State game. Mississippi State went down and beat them, and I think that really opened up LSU's eyes and said, hey, if we're going to contend in this SEC conference, then we're going to have to step it up. And so I think that LSU is going to have to get pressure in the backfield on defense and get hits on quarterback and on running backs and stuff. But Auburn's defense is really going to have to step up too, and to prevent LSU from finding ways to move the ball.
Yeah, this LSU, it's always tough playing in LSU. It's kind of like playing at Sandrock, I guess. And but Auburn will be traveling to LSU, and LSU. I think you're exactly right. Auburn's defense, they have a great defense. LSU's got two good running backs, Geis and Williams, in the backfield who can carry the load, and the quarterback. Not a great passer, but he will occasionally throw it downfield. And, for Auburn's offense, man, is coming around. They've got two great running backs in Johnson and Petway. And the quarterback has improved drastically since the beginning of the season. So I think this is going to be a great football game. And I'll pick it in a minute, but right now I think this Auburn team is probably the second best team in the SEC at this point of the season right now. And then the last game we'll talk about, we've got Texas A&M will be traveling to Florida. Texas A&M comes in after a tough loss. But, if you're Texas A&M, you look at that loss and you can't be really disappointed.
No, not at all. They played a great game against a great Alabama team, and Florida is struggling a little bit this year. It's one of their worst years that they've had. And so I think Texas A&M, even though they did lose last week, they're going to have a lot of confidence saying, hey, we put up 19 points on Alabama and held them to 27.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to give them a lot of confidence going into this game, and they're going to use that to defeat Florida.
Yeah, I think you're right. Texas again. I think this. Florida comes in tough loss to LSU last week, Texas A&M, but I think Texas A&M's playing good football right now. A great running back or wide receiver in Kurt, and the quarterback surprised me. Mond played well. He stepped in. Their starting quarterback was injured in the UCLA game, and he steps in, and pretty much he played. He done a lot of things to hurt Alabama in that game that I was very impressed with. So that's a big game this week, and we'll see how those shake out. But we're up against a commercial break, and we come back. It's that time of the day. We get to pick them, and then we get to rag each other after the week's over to see who won the most.
At First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, we excel within the walls of our bank and outside these walls too. We're actively working with area schools to improve classrooms and supporting area student athletes on fields and courts. We work and worship at most churches in the Rainsville community. We also work to enhance the lives of area seniors, thanking them for a lifetime of contributions. We're the bankers and corporate citizens at First Southern State Bank. True community banking.
Are you in the market for a new or used vehicle? At Donahue Chevrolet, we have over 400 vehicles priced to move. Our new Chevrolets are employee price, plus you keep all the rebates. That means savings as high as $10,000. From the moment you walk in the door until you drive off in your new vehicle, we guarantee a sales process that puts your needs first. And don't forget, our on-site GM certified technicians are always here to ensure there are many worry-free miles in your vehicle's future. Come by Donahue Chevrolet and expect more from your local Chevy dealer.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
And now it's that time. We get to pick the winners. And, man, this is going to be a fun week. I was looking at the standings, And boy, everybody is starting to just kind of creep in, and everybody's getting close. I noticed Bum is one out of the lead. Oh, Margie is leading the way right now, but just she's one game up on Bum, and then we've got about 3 or 4 who are right behind with about 60 wins. I think 63 is leading, and then Bum had 62, and maybe Sammy had 62, and then we've got about 3 or 4 at 60, and then a couple at 59. So everybody's still in this thing, you know. So we'll see how it shakes out. I might have to start picking. What am I gonna say? I might have to be wiser when I pick, I guess. So we'll see how it goes. But first game we got, Brindley Mountain will be traveling to Plainview. Who you picking in this one?
I'm going with Plainview. I think that having last week off and being able to recover and recuperate from that tough loss against Fife, I think that they've had plenty of time to focus on Brindley Mountain. And so I think that I look for Plainview to have another region win this week.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And looking at this, I think, man, there couldn't have been a better time for an open week than coming off of a loss to Fife. Just looking down at some of the other teams, how they struggled after a big loss. I'm glad that Plainview did have an open this week. But I think they get a big win this week at home coming over Brindley Mountain. So I'm going with the Bears. Next, we've got Collinsville will be traveling to Fife. Who you picking in this one?
I'm going with Fife. I mean, Fife's just been playing great football this whole season, and Collinsville's got a couple of guys out, and that's going to hurt them a lot. But they're just a really young football team, and so they're not really, prepared,
right,
physically and mentally for this tough Fife team. So I'm looking for Fife to get a big win.
Oh, absolutely. I'm picking Fife, and I'll just say this. If there comes a week over the next 3-4 weeks that I don't pick Fife, then y'all need to check me because there's probably something wrong because, this Fife team is playing well, and I just don't see anybody left on the schedule that can beat them. Next we got Oxford traveling over to Fort Payne. Who you got in this one?
I'm going with Oxford. I mean, this Oxford team is playing great football. I didn't pick them because they're number 2 in the state, but I've watched them play Albertville last year, and that game was just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Albertville was probably one of the better teams around here, and Oxford made them look like they were absolutely nothing. Yeah. Oxford just picked them apart, and I mean, Fort Payne played them a good game last year, but I think that Oxford is going to have that momentum coming into this game.
Yeah, I'm going with Oxford. I do think Fort Payne may play them a little better than maybe some people think. But I think Oxford wins this in the second half. Next, we got Galesville at Valley Head. Who are you picking?
I'm going with Galesville. I think that the lack of depth for Valley Head is going to really hurt them. Lots of guys playing both ways, which, I mean, I know they've had a couple of weeks to work on that and get guys in better shape. But I just think that Galesville is going to be able to take advantage of that and not allow Valley Head's guys to be off the field for very long.
Yeah. I'm going to pick Valley Head in this one. After watching them play last week, and again, I had not seen them play all year, I'm impressed with how they played against Cedar Bluff, and hopefully that don't, cause them to, after getting beat last week in a tough game, that they're not down from that game. And but I think they got an opportunity to win this football game, so I'm going with Valley Head this week. And next, we got Geraldine at Sylvania. Who are you picking in this one?
I'm going with Sylvania. I just think that that their passing game and their running game is just going to give Geraldine all sorts of problems. And from games I've seen over these past couple of weeks of Geraldine, they've not been able to move the ball on offense very well. I mean, yeah, David White had a great game for them last week against Brindley Mountain, and not to take anything away from him, but Brindley Mountain is a struggling team this year.
Yeah.
And Sylvania's defense is a whole lot better than Brindley Mountain. So I think that Sylvania is going to be able to stop anything that Geraldine throws in front of them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I feel like that you may be getting your yard rode by some Geraldine people after that. You never know. So anyway,
well, I live in Rainsville now, so I'm not going to go ahead. If you want to drive down here, come on.
But you are a Geraldine graduate. So, but I'm just kidding.
And that hurts me. But
yeah. Well, I'm going with Sylvania too. So I think Sylvania is just they're playing right now. if I was having to rate teams, I'd have 5 at the top of the list and probably have Sylvania next, and Plainview be right there too. But I think Sylvania probably is just going to be a little too much for Geraldine. But I think this will be a close football game.
I do too. I don't
think
look for it to be a blowout by no means.
Oh, absolutely. I think Geraldine, and I would not be surprised at all if Geraldine didn't have the lead, going in at halftime in this game. That wouldn't be a surprise.
Coach Waldrop, he came from Sylvania, so he's got a good, unless Coach Putnam has changed anything, Coach Waldrop's got a good idea of what Sylvania can do on offense and what they're capable of. And so I feel like he's going to give Geraldine that little edge just to play Sylvania a better game than what most teams have.
Yeah, I think you're right. Next we got Gunnersville will be traveling up to Crossville. Who are you picking?
I went with Gunnersville. Crossville these past couple of weeks, tough loss to Sylvania, tough loss to Boaz. It seems like that they're down on themselves. They're probably, I felt like after that game Friday in that field house, there was not a smile on anybody's face, which there shouldn't be after a loss, especially a tough loss like that. But I think that lower morale and the struggle of having 2 back-to-back losses is really going to have a big effect on them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going with Gunnersville too, and man, I'd love to see Crossville win this football game and put themselves in an opportunity for a playoff berth, and so hopefully they'll prove me wrong. But till they do, I'm going with Gunnersville. Next, we got Gaston at Ider. Who you got in this one?
I'm going with Ider. Ider's played great football along with other teams, but it seems like they finally found the lineup and the formation that they've needed this whole season, with moving Adams to running back and moving Chase Townsend to quarterback. So that's really going to help them out with that. There's quoting Coach Tinker again, that 1-2 punch in the backfield. That's really going to help them out.
Absolutely, I'm going with Ider. I think a big opportunity for them this week to lock up a playoff position pretty much, and so I think you'll see Ider win this game big. I think so. Next, we got New Hope traveling up to Pisgah. Who you got?
I went with Pisgah. I think that Houston Bell is going to have a big game for them. New Hope's kind of down this year, and I think that Pisgah, this is the game, the biggest game of the year for Pisgah, and I think that they're going to go in and treat it like it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going with Pisgah. I think they're just a little bit better than this New Hope team, and they need that win big. Section be traveling out to Sandrock. Who you picking in this one?
I'm going with Sandrock. I think that they came off a tough loss to Fife last week, which most teams do, and Sandrock will be going into this game, since it is a region game, looking to win this game to secure that number 2 spot and host their first round of playoffs. So I think that having that be one of the main reasons for winning this game, that's really going to give them an edge.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going with Sandrock too. I just think there'll be a little too much for Section in this game, especially playing at Sandrock. And love to see Section get a win and have an opportunity to get in the playoffs, but I think the road's tough for them at this point. Next, we got Arkansas traveling to Alabama.
I'm going with Alabama. I think that they're just, even though they didn't play their best football last week against Texas A&M, I think that Coach Saban is really going to turn things around this week at practice and get them focused back on the bigger picture. And so I think that Bama takes this game.
Yeah, I'm going with Alabama too. I think after last week, and just from the few things that I've heard Saban say after that game, they'll be ready to play this week. So next we got Auburn at LSU.
I'm going with Auburn. I think since their offense is finally getting things turned around, even though it is kind of late in the season, I think that since their offense is starting to perform a whole lot better, that's going to give them an edge, because really Auburn, the past couple of weeks have been solely relying on defense, but now I think that their offense is going to give teams a struggle even LSU.
Yeah, I'm going with Auburn too. I tell you what, I think this Auburn team, I picked against them a couple of times and they hurt me, and so they have one of the better defenses in the SEC, and maybe one of the better defenses in the nation. And LSU struggled against Mississippi State, lost to Troy, struggled, and so had 2 losses, but came back with a big win last week looked much better. I think this will be a very close game, but I think Auburn has too much on both sides of the ball to win this football game. So I think Auburn gets the win. Next, we got Texas A&M traveling to Florida. Who you got?
I'm going with Texas A&M. I think that this is one of Florida's down years in Texas A&M. Most people, when you talk about Texas A&M, like we've said, they think about the UCLA game. Well, now they're going to be thinking they didn't play too bad against Alabama.
Yeah.
So I think that showing that they can hang with other teams, even tough teams like Alabama, I think that's really going to help them out with their confidence and boost their morale and cause them to have greater chemistry. And so I think that they're going to use that to defeat Florida.
Yeah, I'm going with Texas A&M too. I think they're just probably a little bit better right now than this Florida team, quarterback-wise and offensively too, I think. So, but, man, another great week of football coming up. I can't wait for it to get here, to be honest with you. Some great football, great high school football games, and not only that, but setting up for some just monster games coming up over the next couple of weeks. And so, man, we appreciate you so much for being here with us. And, we just love to get to do this. Can't believe, again, it's in week 7. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. And, we'll be right back here next week, man, and breaking down the games, talking about this week's games and talking about what's coming up next week, and probably talk a little college football again. And we hope you'll be here with us. God bless each one of you, and we will see you next week.
Building your dream home is one of the great joys in life. At First Southern State Bank, we know construction and mortgage financing, putting today's low rates to work for you. As you and your family move closer to the completion of your new home, we know that your home is where memories are made and families grow stronger year after year. At First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, Scott Kirk stands ready to tailor the right construction loans to meet your needs, along with our staff of experienced loan professionals. Drop by to share your dreams with us today in Rainsville. First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, all the bank you'll ever need.
Hello folks, this is Greg Anthony with Team 1 Chevrolet in Gadsden, Alabama, bringing you an event that other dealers say can't be done. They don't know Team 1 Chevrolet in Gadsden, Alabama like I do. We're racing to sell 200 new and used automobiles for the month of September during our inventory wipeout event. This event is so big, Etowah County has not seen anything like this in years. Come and be part of the biggest event ever. It is Team 1 Chevrolet in Gadsden, Alabama. Inventory wipeout, racing to 200. I'll see you soon.